what with all these combined things prompts? First of all, Kenji walked.
Yeah.
And then I know that the basis was Thai. So how did that idea evolve?
Because, so, problems, right? I think about problems differently.
Okay.
One, I'm naturally inquisitive. I'm curious about shit.
Right.
So I'll look at problems like cool puzzles to solve. Number one, right? And so as a creative person myself, you run into problems, period. How do I link up with that artist? How do I afford this piece of equipment? How do I build this structure to then pour my creativity into? All of these hows or whos that you ask yourself can be overwhelming and paralyzing. Right. That's why Absolutely. I say embrace the non-perfect, the non-perfected, non-polished part of the process. Embrace it and share it too. Right. Better yet, to share it, because then that could lead to the answers that you yourself are trying to figure out. Right. Be an open playbook, not this sort of scarcity protective mindset. It's like flip that upside down. Abundance, everybody could get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got an idea, everybody could get it. As a matter of fact,
everybody getting this crazy.
Everybody getting it.
Dog.
Everybody getting it. And you know what? There's nothing new under the sun. That's what I tell myself too.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing new. So why act like it's your idea? Right. Why act like it's your thing? Share it. And that's why I was like, get it out. For me, that's really, I'm talking to myself at Kenji Walks. Right. I'm looking at when I open my laptop, which I had, that's my fifth one because bitches don't last. But I look.
Those apples, they be getting, bro. You got like 14 months from the day you buy that. Time's ticking, brother. There's a new one's coming out.
Battery's all bubbly and like,
hotter than the sun.
I got one iMac in Japan. I got this old one over here. I got another one in a bin somewhere. Right. And I'm like, those are dead ideas. You know that quote? The graveyard is the richest place, something like that.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's where it's coming from. Why these people died without ever sharing, with maybe being paralyzed by fear, doubt. My best friend. Yeah. Shout out to Don. Hey, I love you, bro. My brother teased me. He's like, bro, you guys are only grown ass men calling each other besties.
Hey, that's like real.
That's true.
Evolution. That's an evolution.
I mean, hear him introduce me. Oh, it's my bestie. I'm like, yes, that's my bestie.
Well, I mean, but it's all cultural though, right? Like, whenever I go see Thai, right? Like, we're in the practice of we greet each other by giving each other ha. For those that might be watching that don't know, that's the Hawaiian practice of touching your noses and your forehead together and breathing each other in. And Roy's is usually filled with people not from Hawaii.
Yeah.
And when they see two tatted grown men touching noses and breathing each other in the middle of the Roy's lobby, I've seen many different looks, many different. And now, not to mention that, like we've been friends, so we've experienced a lot of places. So we will greet each other that way at a club, at a manifest. Shout out manifest in China, anywhere. Like, so
automatic, right?
Culturally, very interesting. But yeah, to get back on track, what I thought was what really spoke to me about it, right? Like, because I mean, I've told you this many times before. You're an inspiring individual to me. I find the way that you find your way to your creative end result has always been really dope. Because I love watching, like some of the best people in my life that I've learned from have been people that I've been able to kind of over the shoulder or satellite view, watch exactly that, how they problem solve, how they create, how they work. Shout out my brother Mox. Shout out Tai Say, shout out you. There's a lot of people there. My brother Pro, my younger brother Kikes. There's too many people to name, but I feel like when you get to watch that, and then specifically what you're saying is kind of going belly up and giving that vulnerable side of that, because that is something that I will say that I didn't have a lot of experience with, right? Is like everybody, especially in hip hop, right? Like before, like in hip hop, there was very much this thing where it's like, especially like when you're in the studio, right? When when you are kind of on that precipice of like, you know, you're in a development deal or something of that nature, and you're kind of like on that precipice of like something really big could happen or nothing could happen. Mm-hmm. There's this low level kind of cumulus vibe going on where it's like everybody is trying to show the chinks in their armor as little as possible, right? And while going through all of that as an artist, one of the things that I came up with was this kind of this analogy that I would tell people, and I called it the breadcrumb analogy. And it applies to, you know, romantic relationships, but kind of all relationships in general, right? There's this human thing that we do where people will break off a piece of themselves, usually one of the better parts, right? And they slide that. And then as you get to know them and you understand them a little more, they'll break off another low one of those tidbits, slide you another one, right? And this keeps occurring over time, over interaction, multitude of these things, right? And you think that you are getting the picture of what this individual is. Problem is, the person breaking off the pieces is skewing the picture because they're not showing you the whole thing. So a lot of times what occurs in relationship, in art, is you think you have the whole picture and you're like, oh yeah, you're sourdough. And they're like, no, I'm pizza, bro. I'm pizza. And you're like, I hate pizza. But the problem is that you weren't just honest with that from the jump, going belly up and just showing this is what I am. And instead you thought that by this process of breaking off and giving only the curated pieces of you, which I'm super guilty of, you know, right, breaking off these curated pieces and thinking that, okay, if I arrange all these curated parts and this is what they see, this will work.
To that point, and you would know this way better than me, but I think it sort of echoes throughout the whole artistic realm. That's like putting out an album. Mm. That's like putting out 12 tracks. Mm. Each one could be a breadcrumb.
Right.
Versus not just putting out the 12 tracks, but guess what? Every day I put out 12 pieces of content, me like this in the studio. Right. Maybe one is just a picture of my notebook, how I figured out this one bar. Instead of saying this, I said that. Right. Maybe one is like me interviewing my producer. Right. Like all of those other pieces that accumulate into a track, let's say. But we know that there's more to it than just what I see track number 5 on this album. Right. We know there's a whole process. We know, I think, you know what, this is Russ's playbook. Right?
Great example.
One big thing I took from him, I think it's 2015. It's his book. There's a wolf in it or something. It's that yellow book. I forgot the title. But the big take.
I mean, listen to it. I shouldn't lie. Listen to it. Audible.
He said, like, when I popped off, I had a catalog of like 60 tracks ready to go, a full clip.
Yeah.
So people, like, as soon as they're like, who's this? They had an instant catalog to like dive in. So it's not like there was a crumb there on the table. Right. Who's Russ? I don't know. I can only guess.
There was me. Yeah.
You could go and discover. And like, that's another thing to the 100. The 100 part is, that's a round number. That's easy to get. You know, like, it's keep it 100. Like,
but it also requires, like, there is a level in investment, because that's not 10. You know, like 10 you can force yourself through it.
Yeah.
100, you're still strapping yourself in for a journey.
And it's like, I think it's more of a collaborative experience, an engaging experience, because you want to see how 5 compares to 15, how it compares to 29, how it compares to 40, right?
Right.
Like, that's, I guess, that's apparent in me. But like, we have how many birthday parties already, right? It almost feels like that, where it's a number that we can associate with growth, right? Same thing. And 100, that's just the tip. Because really, most like YouTube channels and stuff, they'll say, you know, like, maybe you'll get your first viral hit, relatively speaking to your output, but your viral hit around the lower 30s. So when you get to like 33, 34, 35, chances are one of your 33 videos will outperform every other one.
Right.
And then you have people who are like, I only, let's say, made it, got on the map, got my plaque, for example, 100K subscribers, after 800 videos. And so it's like, it just puts things in perspective. 3 years, 800 videos. Ridiculous numbers, right? So when you look that way, you're like, 100 ain't shit, right? But when you look that way, you're like, that's a commitment. So I like how the number 100 is so like objective. It's 100. You can count it,
Right.
but it has that subjective part of the observer or the practitioner doing it. Like, is 100 to you a new thing? Keep in mind, like I'm well over 100 videos in my lifetime.
Oh,
I'm over 1,000. You know what I mean? Like, I'm over a lot more so than most people who are saying, I want to do this today.